Hello and welcome to this unboxing video. This is Victor Perez and today we are going to unbox and analyze the specs of this very neat monitor, which is the ASUS ProArt Display PA27UCGE. To start, first of all, this is a 27 inches. So let's put it this way. The packaging is recyclable. It is really cool that big companies are taking care of this issue. Just reducing the waste is a very important matter. This starts from the analysis of this. It's a cardboard box. I tend to keep always the boxes of my monitors, especially because when I travel, maybe sometimes I like to take my monitors. This one is a 27 inches, which is a very nice size to have, especially two of them. For this video, I'm going to review only one. But let's start the tools. Let's open. It's going to be here and here. Let's see what this box contains. Let's put it like this. First of all, this thing demonstrates that this is a serious monitor. Why? Because they are giving you all the calibration testing report. So in here you have all the graphics that are going to tell many pieces of data. I'm not going to analyze all of them. What I'm just going to analyze is the most important one, which is the delta error. The delta error is how similar are the values that the color is representing on the monitor to the actual color that is intended to be reproduced. So in here you have a delta error of around 1, and that is great. If the delta error is less than 2, taking into consideration that 0 will be the exact same and 100 will be like a complete opposite color, delta error of less than 2 will be good enough to work as visual artists. But especially in a level 1, so if you have like one-ish, like in here, that means that you can perform quite accurate color operations in here. So in the sRGB, which is the most common for internet browsing or for distribution like sRGB or Rec 709, so you have 0.79, which is less than 1, and that is great. So in here you have all the information about this monitor, all the graphics for the grayscale, just to understand how balance is maintaining that across different levels. The gamma value, of course. So all the values are in this very nice and neat piece of information. So I'm going to leave that aside. Let's start with the manuals and all the certifications. This is not the most exciting thing, but it is important to understand the level of consumption. The higher, the greener, so the less consumption. Of course, this is a monitor, and it's a good monitor, so it's representing also HDR. So you can imagine that it consumes a lot of energy just to pump that brightness. So I'm going to leave that aside. The ASUS Bit member notice, so it's giving you a lot of information about this club if you want to join. Quick start. This is just going to give you in very simple steps how to assemble the flaps, something that I always use. I have experience with previous ProArt monitors. For the flaps, it's actually quite easy to add and to remove. And this is something that I prefer to have this because of the glares and all of that in the room. So it's helping to maintain a uniform level of darkness around the screen. So this is a very nice one. And you have also this online. Then, something that I like, they give you this very nice thing, which is the certificate. So it's telling you that this is certificate by Kalman, so it's Kalman ready, and by Light Illusion. So it's just telling you this ProArt display is factory pre-calibrated for accurate and precise color performance, together with ASUS exclusive ProArt preset and ProArt calibration software. ProArt is designed for you to bring creative ideas to life. So it's a very nice thing. This is a very serious thing because being calibrated by factory means that someone is ensuring personally that this monitor is linked to this report. So this is the result of that, and this is really, really important. Any serious monitor needs to bring that if they are serious about color. Cables, so this is DisplayPort, USB. Of course, this is to carry the data in case you are using DisplayPort. This is part of the base. We're going to open. So yeah, this is the base where we are going to put monitor. I'm going to leave this in here. More cables, the USB-C. This is a very nice thing because you can carry data and image all together at once. So we are going to try this with a laptop and of course the HDMI that is becoming more and more popular. So this is, I guess, for the hook for the back of monitor. So this is something that you put on the back. We are going to discover the purpose very soon. Let's see this. I guess these are the flaps. So, well, very well protected. Let's put this aside. Let's have a look at the other. Yep. This is one of the pieces of flaps. The flaps, in the case of this monitor, are assembled from different parts. I've seen other monitors in the market that are coming with one single foldable solution. There are so many. Even ProArt is using different modalities, I guess. Every new version, they are just trying to engineer something better than the previous version. Because for me, this part is new. So let's put this. Oh, there is something more here. This little part. So this was in here. It got the touch. So I guess it's going to be like this. This is like a sticky part. So you just, I guess, put this in here. And now, yeah, it's ready. Good. Transportation of this kind of devices is always very critical. So I have to acknowledge now the amazing work that many carriers are doing in order to preserve the integrity of all the hardware they are carrying. Thank you very much. In this case, I have another piece, but in here, I'm not sure in which part of this is supposed to be attached. So, because I don't know, I better read the manual. So I'm going to leave it like that. And one more piece, this one, again, the other part. So something that I don't like is that these pieces are just coming detached and they are sticky, but there is no protection. So maybe this was because of the heat or the cold or something, but if they are meant to be detached, they should have a protection. And if they are meant to be attached, they shouldn't be detached. So that is something to keep in mind. It's not a problem. I did it already for one, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. But all of that is something to keep in mind. This one has also this piece attached with those two little pieces that I'm going to leave in there. So that goes there. I'm going to put this in here. Well, let me put it aside for a moment. Let's continue with the other layer. This is what I meant before. I love this is cardboard. So everything is recyclable. That is an important question to keep in mind. Yeah, I'm going to put this here. And of course, the panel. So with this, is telling me that I should open that way. It's very nice. It's really easy to understand. But I like the IKEA-like instructions. So yeah, very satisfied. So this is the way of opening the box. You can also get in before or just leave it in there. I mean, this is the panel. I'm going to leave it protected for the time being. I'm going to leave it aside. And the last piece, which is this bar. okay, which is what is going into this other piece. I assume something like that. ASUS has a very nice way of assembling, so they have even built in the solution, and as you can see, it's very intuitive. I like this system, and it's not heavy, so it's quite nice, because there are other monitors while the stand is just giving a lot of height because of the panel and the distribution, but this one is not particularly heavy at all. Maybe, can you see the angle that is coming slightly on the side? Is tilt. Maybe you can see it better. So it's tilt. So that means that it's just compensating the direction, the body center of everything, in order to avoid to have a very heavy stand. So I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to close this beautiful box, and I'm going to leave the box on the side. Let's bring the panel. There you are. So instead of doing the orthodox way of building the whole monitor, so in order for you to have a clear view of the whole thing, and because it's not going to matter much, I'm going to leave it here, flat. Okay? So we can review the whole thing in this direction. So first of all, you have the most important specs here on the side. This is a sticky thing that you can remove. I'm going to leave it for the time being because I would like to showcase what is important in here. So the model, of course, we know, but in here we have something quite interesting, which is 160 Hertz. And this is the refresh rate of the monitor, which is really impressive. It's really, really fast. What is this for? Well, this is just going to avoid eye strain due to the strobiness of the movement of the cursor or whatever is happening. Of course, if we are working in film, the actual frame rate that we are going to have is something like around usually 24. But having this motion is more for the artist more than for the content. So you can, of course, go to the 24 frames per second for the display of the content, but the interface and how you handle things is going to be smooth. This is important. It's going to avoid tiredness when you are working, especially if you are working many hours. So this is cool. If you are a gamer, of course, you know how important it is to reduce lag or all of that. So this is cool, but for us professionals, I would like to remark that the higher hertz this number, the smoother is going to be the refresh rate of the monitor. So something cool. DCI-P3, this is the most important container for professional delivery and in media entertainment. Now, in terms of visuals, is using this color space as the main gamut for the delivery. Even if you have other color spaces that are just wrapper, like for instance the Rec 2020, but at the end, inside the Rec 2020, which is just a wrapper, so it's just a container, usually the data that is stored in there these days for deliveries is DCI-P3. So you have in here 98% of DCI-P3, which is really good. That 2% that is not possible to achieve, well, is due to brightness and precision of the panel. But we are going to talk about that in a moment because it's actually something really important to understand why we are not going to take much care of those 2% points missing on that, because we are going to recover from something else, which is the price. And that is important. The color accuracy now is a delta error. When you see this triangle, is the delta letter from Greek, delta error less than 1. That is really cool. And you can see that you have less than 1 for the sRGB and slightly over 1 for the other color spaces, but we are talking around 1, so that is a very good score. Lux pixel low reflection. Well, This is a technology that ASUS is just putting in here in order to reduce the glare of the screen. Of course, it's important. Every company is developing their own, but it's low reflection. This is important. I mean, you cannot see much of the reflection. For instance, you cannot see the reflection of the camera that is right above. But it's good that you have this level right now. The ceiling is white and you don't see much difference in there. So this is really good. So your blacks are going to be preserved even when you have like something brightness behind the screen. Of course, you should avoid that. But in case you have, because it is impossible to have like a flawless, perfect, precise surface that is black behind, so you have that. Cell calibration. This is something I already tested in another monitor, the UCGE from ProArt, that I really like, which is the monitor has the ability to self-calibrate. So you don't have to use, the probe and put it in there and then wait for the software. The monitor is going to take care by itself. And how? Well, it's in here, in the bottom. You can see this thing. You don't have to touch it. You don't have to, because it's going to be automatically, just you can even schedule, going to calibrate the monitor automatically. And this is really, really cool because you don't want to waste your time doing the calibration. Still, you need to calibrate quite frequently the monitor to ensure it's maintaining, all the properties of the calibration, because monitors, the more you use them, the more they change. It is important that you run calibration once in a while. Okay, depends on what you are doing, more frequent or less, but it is important that you have it in any case. And with this, what I like to do is to schedule it when I'm sleeping. So during the night, it's just going to do the job of the calibration, because for the calibration, it requires the monitor to be on for at least 30 minutes before the calibration, and then once it's warm, it's going to perform the calibration. And it's just going to take in here. And it's really nice when I was talking to the engineers of ASUS that they told me that they have an algorithm calculated for the screen in order to understand what is the difference between this area, that is the area that's being calibrated, and the other area. So it's going to even to self-compensate for this kind of calibration. So there is a lot of engineering in order to do this calibration to happen. So it is really, really cool. So then, of course, you have like USB-C, because now it's kind of a standard. I love that because with one cable, you have all the connections, all the ports. You can even connect the software with the monitor, so you can change the color space from the computer. That works, of course, with PC. I also use Mac. With Mac, you don't have that thing, but you can always do it manually in here. Other things, auto KVM. It means that if you have two computers, it's just going to automatically choose which one is the one that you are using at the moment, or you can change it manually. So you can connect two computers to the same monitor. For instance, you can have your desktop and your laptop, and you can use one monitor for both. This is going to save a massive amount of space in your desk. This is the way I use things. So I have like a laptop that is a Mac, a desktop that is a PC, so I can cover all the OS. Then, of course, I have a laptop that is PC that I take it with me when I need to work abroad. But the thing is, like with this, you can actually have both without having the hassle of just having switchers or something like that. So it's automatically built inside the monitor. And then, as I said before, you have the monitor hood. That I'm not going to assemble this because this is not like do-it-yourself kind of videos. This is more about analyzing the specs. So let me remove this. So there is a satisfaction on removing sticky things from the devices. I don't know why that happens, but yeah, it's a thing. I like to keep it, so I'm going to put it there. You have the connections, okay? This is the power switch, and then you have two HDMIs, one display port, the USB display port, the USB for the connection in case you are using one of these that has no data, and then of course, the regular USBs that are for a mouse or a keyboard or whatever, even though today all of those are wireless though. Anyway, you have those that are always handy. Then you have the headphones and a power USB to charge something or even to power switches or something like that. It's always good to have that extra power in there. So I'm going to put this aside, and then I'm going to connect the computer. So here you are. Now it's connected to the current, and I'm going to use the USB-C for monitoring. All right, let's make room for the computer. So I'm going to put it there, and this very small laptop, and let's connect this in here. Okay, so you have to use the one that is USB for display. Here you are. Okay, so I'm going to put the specs in here because I would like to discuss with you something interesting. In here, this is the website, the official website of the monitor, so you can have all the specs, all of that. But I want to flag in here something that is really important. So let me just bring it back to you. Look at the price. Look at the price. I'm not going to touch the monitor. I have a thing, I cannot touch monitors. Don't touch your monitors with your hands because you have grease and things and it's never nice. But look at that price. The price that is listed in the UK is £749. And let me tell you that that is a very low price for all the specs that you have in here. This is really cool. So in order to analyze further this, to understand if this is really good, let's make tests. So I'm going to stress test this monitor. So I'm going to bring a few different tests. So I'm going to use, for instance, these Siemens stars, this thing. So I'm going to put it in full screen. Yeah. So the Siemens star is just going to give you a lot of information about the pixels, is how fine is the distribution of the pixel, the retina of this display. And in order to see, I think it's cool. But I'm going to do something that I always like to do, and I'm going to do it with you. Let's have a look very, very close, if I can do it even closer. So can you see, let me, I just getting too close, but well, maybe next time I'm going to bring like a magnifying lens. But what I can tell you is, like, if I'm going very, very close to the monitor, if the panel is not good, you are going to notice fringe between the lines, which means this is supposed to be a black and white image. So you shouldn't see any colors aside black and white. If you see on the edges any kind of coloring, that is a defect in the matrix. I mean, the matrix of the panel, not the matrix in the world. So what you have to pay attention when you are doing this stress test is to go to the diagonals especially, so these areas, and that is going to give you a very nice overview of the quality of that. I cannot do that, I cannot zoom because it's about the panel, so I can always go, you can use even a magnifying lens, but to be honest, this is not about understanding technically the monitor, because the monitor is good. The question is, like, do you see any artifacts? Because this is the point, is like, at what distance are you going to be? 50 centimeters, 30 centimeters from the monitor? So can you see, can you notice something? So first of all, you should look at the monitor with this test at the distance that you usually work with that monitor. Of course, if you go with a magnifying lens, you are going to see the RGB matrix of the pixels, but you are not going to work like that. And that work is going to happen with every single monitor in the world. So the thing is, if you notice any color variation, you know that that is not a very good monitor. Something that you are going to notice is around the center. So in the center, if you can see any sort of color, it means that when the detail is getting finer and finer, you are not going to have a very good representation. If you have any sort of artifacts or anything like that, yeah, it's not the best monitor. In here, I am really surprised because everything is perfectly neat. It's black and white. The quality of this panel is really good. And now that you know also the price of this monitor, I am really, really impressed because it's, for the price, it's a very, very good value monitor. I can see slightly tiny bits of aberrations in there, very, very little. There is no coloration in that aberration, so it's just like, of course, the matrix is just getting very, very finer, so you can see in there that there is not much information in there. Oh, it's now with the energy saving. I'm going to, yeah. I haven't got to the menu, we're going later, but this is something really, really cool. Even if you don't have that, it's expected to have a bit of aberration in there, you cannot see different colors. So the matrix is even, at least in the color representation. So that is really cool. Of course, this thing in the center that is now being represented as flat gray is because the monitor has not enough resolution to represent that, or either the image in itself don't have that amount of detail, because of course, when the star is just getting mixed, it's just going to get all the values mixed together. So it is normal. For me, the analysis of this monitor in terms of the viewing detail and comfortable is really, really good. So let's get rid of that and let's try another one. Let's try this time this one, which is the gradient. So I'm going to remove that and I'm going to put the forescreen. So what is the purpose of this test? This is like the easiest test to understand if the gamma of the monitor is even, so if the representation of a grayscale is just good or not. So if the grading is represented with bandings, so with colors or areas that are not even gradient through across the whole monitor, that means that the representation of the colors is not really good. In here, because you have a delta error of 1 or less than 1, I can verify very clearly that this is really even. So of course, all of this is something you need to see with the monitor for real. In a video, it's a bit tricky to understand all of that because of course the cameras and everything is introducing their own artifacts, but what I can tell you is like what I can see right now, this is really, really good, very even. I don't see any coloration anywhere across the pattern, and that is what I was expecting from a monitor that is, you know, selling those specs. So that is really, really good. Let's go to another test. I have a couple of other tests. So let's see now the Fresnel. This is a test that I created in order to understand. It's similar to the Siemens stars, but it's just going to analyze aberrations in a radial fashion. So instead of just to understand above and below, this way is just going to analyze the aberrations in a more radial, from the distance, from the center, to understand how big is going to increase aberration from the side. So it is really good. I know that the text you are seeing in here are a bit trippy, so it's like the images are a bit uncomfortable to watch for real for a long time, but it's really, really helpful. So you can see in the lines, where the lines are alternating, that there is no aberration at all in the areas of the line. So you have even 45 degrees lines and other kind of representations, and it's working really, really well. So no aberrations to be reported on this image. Let's have a look at another one that is more to evaluate. It's like a stress test for detail, which is this one. Let's put it in full screen. This is similar to the Siemens stars because, of course, it has different Siemens stars, but it has less spikes. So you can see clearer the center, the area of the center. So you have details in here. You have the fine details on the 80 line. Let me just check. So can you see the detail in the 80 line? Well, this is a full screen. I can barely see any lines in there. So, well, it's a 27 inches, so it is to be expected. There is some sort of texture, so it's not like a flat gray area. For that, just for you to know, these are lines. Every line in here is just less space between the lines, and the lines are getting just thinner and thinner. This is good to understand the ability of the resolution to showcase detail. Okay, so it's a 4K Ultra HD resolution, so you have a lot of pixels to account in there, but it's 27 inches. So you need to understand if, again, it's all about the distance with the screen. So if you are very, very close, of course, you are going to need more resolution, like 8K or something like that, but resolution is always in relation to the distance. The usual distance that you have between you and the monitor is going to range between 30 centimeters from your eyes, or that is very, very close, or 50 centimeters, or half a meter. So in terms of the resolution and in the different areas, you have to understand to evaluate different areas of the monitor. I don't see any area of relevance that you can see different kind of aberrations. So I can read the numbers down to 40 something, no, 28, 34. That number in there is 34. That is the smaller I can read. Of course, that is going to depend on your ability to see. But that, of course, is going to relate to your monitor, because if you don't have a perfect 22 visions, 2022, what is the point of the resolution? So, of course, you need to take care of your eyes, first of all, but when you are calibrating, when you are evaluating the monitor, you need to take care of all of this, okay? So this is the stress test. Then, of course, I have another test, but we cannot run that in here because it will make no sense, and you are going to understand why. I'm going to show you in any case, which is this one. This is a color checker. So yeah, we can use a real color checker in order to understand if the colors are the same. But in order to evaluate that, I will need the color checker to be showing under the same lighting conditions of this monitor. So with a light that is representing, I don't know, the D65, for instance, standard of color, the illuminant. So because I don't have that control in this room, because this is just a regular light, it's the light of the sun, is the light from outside, because today is sunny in London. So it would make no sense just to compare the real color checker with this color checker. But what I can tell you is like, yeah, it makes sense. Something that it can be helpful is if you notice any color dominant in one of these, it can be either the calibration of the monitor is not good, or something like the monitor is not a good panel or something like that. But before you evaluate that, ensure the monitor is calibrated. So maybe it can be even a software thing. So you just need to make sure the whole chain of color management is actually respected. And in here, yeah, pretty much is working fine. So what I can see is like, just out of the box, the color checker looks fine to me. I don't see any major difference, or even minor. I don't see any difference. So even if you have like the test with the color and the illuminant for the real color checker, yeah, this is actually working really, really well. So once said that, what I can say is that, let's go back to the specs. Yeah, it's working really, really well. You can go now to the menu, and in the menu you are going to see this. If you are familiar with ProArt line of monitors, the menu is actually quite similar to other menus. So you have different presets for the different color spaces that is going to represent the best intent that the monitor can get. Then you have like other different setups. It's just giving you also the hertz, so the refresh rate. And that is going to depend also on the ability of your monitor to support the refresh rate. So this is like a regular menu for all that, but I would like to show you the calibration. So this is the cool part. So you can go with the auto calibration, you can set up what is the time, the routines of that, and have a look at the menu. You have this that is like a joystick, so you can just go up, down, left. So it is really, really easy just to go with the monitors. I don't like when you have to press. I prefer this because it's easier just to navigate in the monitors. It's easy and intuitive. You have, as I said, all the major presets for all the color spaces that are contained in here. You can, of course, change manually that. You can change different aspects like sharpness. Never use sharpness if you are working in visual effects, because that is going to change the aspect of the image, and maybe you are going to try to correct for something that the monitor is introducing. So it's really cool that the monitor is allowing you to remove that. Something that I like also just to mention is don't add any blue light filter. That is something that, of course, the blue light has an impact on your eye strain and all of that, but if you are working in visuals, you need to have precise control of the whole thing. So yeah, I don't like to touch that. Something to keep in mind for the settings is that you have the HDR preview right now, and you have also dynamic dimming. And that is just going to, depends on what is displayed on the image, is just going to enhance the overall brightness of the image. And in my opinion, is adding some sort of artifacts in time. So I don't like to have any dynamic dimming. The thing is, like, if you remove that, you are going to notice that the luminance is going to change drastically. So yeah, right now it's just uniform. So regardless of what is going to appear in the screen, this is not going to try to compensate for the luminance. That is something that I like. And then the HDR preview that is just made for you to see in the first go that you go with the monitor. I don't like that either. So yeah, this is also the auto detection. That is cool when you have different inputs. It's just going to auto detect what is the one that is active. I mean, this is quite regular kind of specs that you have there. So for me, what is the most important part of all of this is that you have all the specs that you have in here at this price. And that is really impressive, because in order to have this just a few years ago, I'm going to say that at least 3 times this price. I love the ProArt line of products because they are oriented for creatives. So you don't need to know all of that, all the specs, or what is the delta error. Of course, the more you know, the better, because you have more control. But what you can be sure is that the ProArt line is just designing products for the creatives. What I like about this is they were selling a monitor for creatives at a good price. In my opinion, thumbs up, because this is the real deal. If you want to see the monitor assemble and everything, you have it in here. I don't think this video is going to be more interesting if I show you how I assemble this, because it's like IKEA. I just want to see the final result and the important practicalities of this. As I said, this is a very good monitor. So I think that's all for this video. I hope you like. Just subscribe if you want to see more, hit like and share with your friends. If you are looking for a monitor at a good price, maybe this is the one for you. See you next time. This has been Victor Perez.